So I'm going to make a how to paint your rims video for poor people like myself. Can of Rust-oleum, actually a few cans, and we will make these rims look, I would say good, but better than they look now. And I've seen some paint jobs that you guys have done to your own cars, so I thought maybe this video could help. I've done this quite a few times. Used to be a used car dealer, so you know, I was all about spray paint stuff. So we're gonna start by getting a wire brush going and get all the heavy rusting away off these rims. A lot of them have some pretty decent rust right around the lip there, so I need to get all the loose stuff off, and then we'll move on to just regular sanding, getting all the paint scuffed so the new paint will stick. Gotta go through and pop all these old wheel weights off. So let me get the wire brush going with the drill, and we'll get started on step one, which will be wire brushing heavy rust. So step two is going to be just scuffing up the paint, trying to smooth out any roughness. I would recommend going to the store and getting some of that, so I think it's Scotch-Brite pads or something. Kind of looks like the rough side of a sponge. I wasn't able to find any last time I went out, so I'm just going to use some steel wool here. Accomplish a similar result with this, I guess. And I'm just going to go down the line and get all these scuffed up real good. You don't want to have any shiny paint. You want it all to be dull. That'll make it so the new paint will stick good. So usually at this point I'd mask the tires off, but I'm going to throw these out, so I'm just going to go ahead and paint over top of them. I'm going to change the valve stems too, but if you are masking your tires off, you know, I usually end up just doing it with masking tape, and I just kind of cut little pieces off and go around and around the tire a couple of times. You could try using playing cards or index cards too, but I find the best way is just to use masking tape. So I just finished up wiping all these down with some wax and grease remover. Now I'm going to go set them outside and get the paint ready, and it's finally time to paint these rims. Alright, I'm getting ready to put some primer down. I'm going to get around the edges first and then do the rest of it. Alright, well I just finished my second coat of primer. Usually give it 5-10 minutes in between coats when you see it go from looking shiny to looking flat. Now I'm going to move on to the paint. So I wanted to go for a sand color, but all I could find was almond, so hopefully it won't look too awful. It kind of looks like a sand color to me. And then Rust-oleum paint always is kind of soft, it seems like. So I got a clear coat for it. It's a matte clear because I didn't want it to be super shiny. And when I've done that in the past, it seems to last a lot longer, this paint, if it has a clear coat on it. So I'm going to give it a few minutes for that primer to dry up and then start shooting some color. Okay, it's time to put the color on. Now remember, I'm going to get around all the little edges first and then go over the main part of the rim. It's a little easier to do that because if you try to get the edges afterwards, it seems like you always end up running the paint. So I like to do the edges first. And this first color doesn't have to be a super heavy coat either. It can be pretty light. I'll probably do 2 to 3 coats of color. Well, things are looking pretty good so far. If you're wondering how I keep the bugs from landing in the paint, I don't. I just paint over top of them. But you know, this is just what the common guy does to his rims, and I'm just here to maybe help a little bit to make them look better, you know. Gotta have the right painting technique. But the paint seems to be adhering, you know. I've done it before where I got something on the rims even after I wiped them with the paint thinner, and you get the fish eyes in the paint, or they just plain old don't stick afterwards. So, you know, you just got to make sure you get them really clean, and the primer helps smooth out all the rough edges that's underneath the paint, because you know this had a lot of rust pitting and paint was peeling off in some areas, and honestly at a glance they look pretty decent. They still don't look fantastic around the edge of the rim here. There's not much I really tried fixing that up, but ultimately that's as good as I got it. But you know, that's just a small part. The rest looks pretty nice. So there's a bug right there. You got it in the paint. So I'm giving it a few minutes. You know, it's a little bit harder to tell when the shiny paint is drying. So, you know, you just like to touch it right here. It's tacky. You could probably paint over it. By the time, I always start with the same one. So I go this one, that one, that one, that one, and that one. And by the time I get done, this one's probably more than halfway ready for another coat. So that's another tip, you know. Just keep painting them in the same order. And when you get to the point where you're like recoating the color, where it's hard to tell where you've already painted. So when you're like cutting in your edges right here, start with the one with the valve stem. So you go that one, that one. That way you don't accidentally hit the same one twice and then put too much paint on and you'll get a paint run. And do the same with this, because it's going to be hard to tell where you've painted already. So use the valve stem as a reference point. Alright, well, it's been threatening to rain, although the forecast hasn't called for any rain, but I've heard some thunder, and I have felt a few raindrops, so I'm trying to get this done before it starts pouring down rain and ruining my nicely painted rims here.